I used to laugh when people told me night shift jobs were haunted. Ghost stories, urban legends. They always seemed like something people made up just to make their boring shifts less painful. That was before I worked at the Brookhaven Inn. That was before I learned what it meant to sit in the silence of an empty lobby, waiting for something you couldn't see but knew was there. It happened on one of my very first weeks at the job. I still remember the weather outside, humid, sticky, the kind of night where the air feels heavier than your own body. The cicadas were buzzing like a distant alarm, and the parking lot was a desert of empty cars under the dim yellow lights. The lobby itself was plain, nothing extravagant, just two glass doors, a counter with the brass service bell, a rack of brochures that no one ever touched, and a set of cameras feeding into a monitor in the back office. For most of the night, that bell was my only company. The ticking of the clock was the second. At first, the shift was what you'd expect. A couple of late check-ins, some phone calls, the usual paperwork. Around midnight, everything went quiet. I sat in the lounge with my phone, scrolling, sipping on an energy drink. I'd almost convinced myself the night would drag along uneventfully. Then it rang. The bell on the counter. A sharp metallic ding that jolted through the silence. I frowned, stood, and walked into the lobby expecting to see someone. Maybe a late guest, maybe a delivery guy. But the counter was empty. The glass doors were shut. The parking lot looked deserted, and the silence was as thick as ever. I checked the lot anyway. Nothing. Not a single person out there. I went back, shrugged it off, and sat down again. 10 minutes later, it rang again. This time, my skin prickled. I knew I hadn't imagined it. The sound echoed too loudly to be a trick of the mind. Again, I checked. The doors were closed, the lot still quiet, the counter empty. A part of me wanted to laugh it off. Maybe it was just nerves. Maybe some prankster had slipped in. So, instead of retreating, I stayed put. I pulled a chair behind the counter, dimmed the lobby lights, and fixed my eyes on that little brass bell. The silence stretched. 5 minutes. 10. 15. My eyelids grew heavier. My head started to nod. I almost convinced myself nothing was wrong. Then the bell rang, and I saw it. A pale hand, thin as bone, creeping up from beneath the desk. Its fingers curled over the edge of the counter, and with deliberate calm, it pressed the bell right in front of me. I leapt from the chair, nearly toppling it, and bolted into the back office. My heart hammered against my ribs as I slammed the door shut and twisted the lock. For a long moment, I stood in the dark, forcing myself to breathe, telling myself I must have been hallucinating. But when I looked at the monitor, my blood froze. The lobby camera showed the tipped-over chair, the bell sitting innocently on the counter, and movement. A head poked out from behind the desk. No features, just the faint outline of a hood and two glinting eyes reflecting the dim lobby light. They were looking directly at the camera, directly at me. I stumbled back from the monitor. My fingers shook as I dialed 911. I whispered into the phone, told the dispatcher someone had broken in, someone was inside the building with me. She told me to stay calm, stay where I was. Officers were on the way, but the monitor didn't let me rest. The figure crawled out from behind the counter, moving on hands and knees like an insect. He stood, tall, hood pulled tightly around his face, posture bent unnaturally forward. Then he began pacing, circling the lobby like he owned it. At one point, he stopped in front of the glass doors, staring outside as if waiting for something. or someone. Then he turned and started walking down the hallway, the same hallway that led to the office door where I was hiding. The doorknob rattled once, just once, slow, deliberate. I froze, every muscle in my body screaming to run, but refusing to move. The dispatcher's voice crackled through the phone, asking if I was safe. I couldn't even speak. My throat locked shut. After a long silence, the footsteps retreated. I rushed back to the monitor, praying I wouldn't see what I feared. The man was back in the lobby, casually flipping through brochures like a bored tourist, as if mocking me. Minutes dragged like hours. Finally, flashing blue and red lights cut through the darkness outside. Police cars pulled into the lot. The figure noticed. He snapped upright and bolted out of frame. I heard the glass doors swing open. By the time the officers cleared the lobby, he was gone. All they found was a rock near the door, wedging it slightly open. The lot was empty. The road, silent. Whoever it was had vanished into the night. The officers told me it was probably some vagrant, someone looking to scare me or steal. But I can't forget that hand. Too pale, too calm, too deliberate. Or the way those eyes seemed to stare directly into the camera, into me. Now, every time that bell rings at night, I think of that moment. And I know I'll never look at that desk the same way again.